Welcome to Athena Women Today. I'm so excited. This is my first episode, The Power of Voice, Building Confidence Through Expression. And this podcast explores diverse and successful women, their journey with confidence, resilience, imposter syndrome, and how we can all learn to be confident women today. I've got a very special guest, Sertari.
Hello.
And a little intro for you here. Sertari is the winner of Best Female Vocalist Prog Rock UK, and Sertari's toured UK and Europe both solo and with her band Connecticut. And she's released several solo EPs and her first album as lead vocalist for Connecticut. And most importantly, Sertari is a mum of two. So Sertari, the name, can you tell us about the name?
Yes. But first of all, I just want to say congratulations to you for setting all this up and it being the first one. It's always a massive step to get something off the ground. And so congratulations.
Thank you.
So going back to your question, the name. Well, the name is actually connected to my roots. My surname, my maiden name is Sertari. So the Sertari is obviously the little bit at the end. So it was so although it's a stage name, it's still part of me and who I am.
Yeah.
And also it's a nod to my dad as well, because his stage name when he was doing music was Nicholas Sertari. So I have technically...
And your heritage.
And my heritage, yeah.
Greek Cypriot.
That's it. So I've taken the name and that's my stage name. That's Sertari.
Owning who you are. So first question, if I can fire off straight away. When did you first discover your passion for singing? How did it shape your confidence?
I knew from a very young age I loved singing. I loved music. Our family is very musical. So there was always music in the home from every angle. Someone was always playing a different variety of music in the home. So I grew up loving music, listening to a wide range of music, and also the love to sing. So whether at that age I knew I was any good or not, I still loved singing and I loved showing people little performances. Yes, I knew that singing was who I was. In terms of shaping my confidence, I guess when you know you love something so much, you just want to embrace that thing that you do. So it wasn't as much that I was unconfident to begin with, but I had to learn about things like stage fright and, anxiety before a show. But at a young age, that wasn't a thing. You just want to get up and show everybody what you can do.
You were just having so much fun.
I was having fun. That's it. Yeah. It wasn't serious when I was little. I enjoyed it. Maybe later on, as I grew up, and especially as a young teenage girl, you go through different changes and you get very self-conscious. I think it's at that point where you have to learn about confidence and you're also finding out who you are. You change so much.
And actually offline, we were talking about who you are. And one of the things that you said to me is I've discovered that I am a singer. And that's how you would introduce yourself. So you wouldn't introduce yourself as I'm Nicola, the mum of two or wife or business owner. You would introduce yourself as I'm Nicola the singer because that's who I am.
Yeah, I was having the same discussion with my husband, Ben. And, we were talking about how you introduce yourself. And when he does his big meetings, what does he say and what do I say? And I always thought, I don't want to feel guilty not saying, hi, I'm Nicola, I'm a mum of two. And, I didn't come into this world being a mum of two. I was me first. I was my passion first. I was the singer. I am a singer. that's who I am. That's my thing. That's created who I am.
Singing is about how you come out into the world.
Singing is how I express myself, how I communicate. And yes, I'm not saying that being a mother hasn't shaped me. You change all the time. But that was later on in life, becoming a mum, a wife and a mum.
Can you share a memorable moment where singing transformed somebody else's life?
As you know, so not only do I do my own singing and with Connecticut, and as you mentioned, mum of two, I also teach singing to secondary school students. So I do that. Yes, there was one individual who she didn't have much confidence, but through the lessons and through singing and through, I guess, helping her push through the performance barrier of, look, you need to sing outside these four walls just to me, and go and just experience what it's like in front of people, which she did. Now she's doing a degree in music. She's doing her own gigs.
Wow.
Her voice has come completely leaps and bounds. She sounds absolutely incredible. And just seeing this girl who had lack of confidence, who's now confident to sing in front of people.
So you helped her to find her voice, her singing voice, but her inner voice.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And she's communicating through her expression, and that's giving her confidence. Why was that student so important to you? Why is that so memorable, that moment?
I guess I saw a little bit of myself in her. And I think it goes back to maybe when people ask you a question of what advice would you give your younger self? And I was now in a situation where there was a young student. I've come through an experience where I had to find my own confidence. I wasn't necessarily given advice like this. I didn't have anyone who was necessarily doing music and out there gigging and doing something or telling me, oh, maybe I should be doing this or trying that. I had to kind of find it out myself. So I was now in a situation where I could then give her a little bit of advice from my own personal experience. So I was, although as a child, I loved confidence and singing, and when you're young, you're not embarrassed or anything, you just do it for the love of it.
Having fun. Yeah.
And as you grow up, yes, like I said, you become a little bit disjointed you're trying to find out who you are. You're trying to love what you do. You're still experimenting and mapping out and figuring out things. And so it took me a very long time to grow as a singer and to grow that confidence and find my feet with it and find who I was, find my voice, as you say, find my voice, my ability, learn to love your voice.
So let's dig deep. Who is the real Sertari? Nicola. Singing is who you are, as we've discussed. It's your passion. It's how you come out into the world. It's how you express yourself. But how did you find that confidence? What did you have to overcome in order to truly then re-love singing as a child? Was there any adversity that you felt that you had to overcome to get there?
I think growing up, I wasn't very confident. I wasn't a confident child, I don't think. I think to people, I think even now, on the outside, I looked confident, bubbly, happy, all this stuff. But inside, I was, a bit of a nervous wreck. And it was like that even throughout secondary school, college. I was always fighting. I always explain that I was like a duck, on the surface, like you say, you look all kind of fine, but your legs are paddling really, really quick. And that was with everything, with schoolwork and anything that I did, because I was a perfectionist. I wanted it to be good, but I found it very difficult to maybe get to my finish line. And it wasn't until later on I found out I was dyslexic, and when I was at university. Back then, dyslexia had a very negative, very, very negative, cloud over it. If you were dyslexic, you were, not very intelligent, or you were slow. It was very negative.
We didn't have the support that we have now.
No.
And I remember being in school and you had a special needs club. And I think what we know now, there could have been many different types of children in that club, autistic, dyslexic, or with a neurodivergent, on a neurodivergent scale.
But the way it was labelled,
but it was just those with special needs. And I remember being in secondary school, and if you went into that club, you were picked on, you were bullied, and actually you were called quote unquote dumb, which is not good. But that's what it was. That's the reality. That's what it was when we were younger. And so, I mean, it's so striking that you didn't get this diagnosis until university doing a music degree.
But then if we're talking about the whole confidence thing, throughout all of school, not only was it, well, back then not knowing about the dyslexia, it was the racial.
Being different,
being bullied for looking different. So I had to fight a lot to just stay afloat, to make my confidence stay afloat. So every time it was like my confidence was being knocked because I wasn't feeling clever enough, or I was to this color or that color, and I looked like this. So I was constantly being knocked all the time.
Sorry, as you were saying, through singing, you found a safe place to be because there was racism in the playground. As a minority in your hometown, that's where it started, in the playground. I remember being picked on for being different and struggling without having had that diagnosis with dyslexia. So you weren't being supported. So you're having a challenging time in the playground, feeling different on all fronts. So I can totally understand why you didn't feel like you were a confident child, and yet you seemed to be this happy, bubbly young girl on the outside.
Yeah, and going back to your earlier question about how did singing give you that confidence and music, that was the one thing that I had that was mine, that I knew that I was able to do. And I knew then that I did have a talent for it. And I wasn't afraid to stand up in front of the class and sing, because it was something that I loved and enjoyed. And people and the teachers did take note. So I knew that they were taking note of, oh, she could sing. They gave me little lead roles because I could sing. But everything else was a fight. So that was me. That's what kept me afloat, was music. And even through secondary school, I knew from my experience, and you shouldn't be doing this you shouldn't have to feel like this when you're that young. But I knew when I went to secondary school, I didn't want a repeat of what happened to me in primary school. So I turned into this tougher person. I was a lot stronger. I said, I'm not going back to being bullied again. I'm going to stand up for myself. So whenever anyone said something, I would challenge it and to make them realize, I'm sorry, you can't say that. That's not acceptable.
That's racist.
That's racist.
Absolutely.
That's not acceptable. I won't stand for it. So I said, I have to work that out for myself. And then when it came to even music in that time, I knew that I had something. I knew I had a bit of talent. I started to write songs. So it was from secondary school that I started to write songs. And I used songwriting as an outlet for my frustration. I found it very difficult. Obviously, now I know with dyslexia, communicating, and even through this podcast, I might be saying the odd or mixing up my words. But writing is how I was able to communicate and
how you were feeling,
how I was feeling. And a lot of my songs are written from a personal point. There are songs that are a little bit fictional, and there's a little bit of fiction in songwriting anyway, because you slightly embellish things maybe, but a lot of it is from a personal point of view of how I'm feeling.
Did you feel at all though that because you found a talent in singing, and because you had so many challenges with kids being racist, struggling to learn because you were dyslexic, but that being undiagnosed, did you find that if you were good at singing, in some way it would validate your worth?
I think I had to find it later on. I don't think at that time I really thought of it like that. I just thought of it as that was the one thing that I was good at, and I just enjoyed it. And maybe that came later on, actually finding the worth, because I think I knew then what my path would be after you finish secondary school, go to college, etc. And I knew it was always going to be music and singing. That was my drive. That was my passion. And then I became more of a perfectionist with it.
And you were always then measuring yourself against how good is my singing and my performing.
So I was digging myself a little hole at one stage, because if I didn't sing something right, I would beat myself up. I was always my own worst enemy, like massive worst enemy. There was many gigs that I did, solo gigs that I did, that I would come home and I'll just sit on the floor with my hands on my head, just thinking, oh my God, what have I just done? And it, if I watch the videos back now, they weren't bad. It was just how I perceived it back then. I was still finding my confidence in myself. I was my own worst enemy. And I write about that a lot.
And actually owning who you are, because you said off camera, really, it's only been in the last year that you've truly owned being dyslexic, and you're now talking about that more with people and sharing that, and actually inspiring other singers to own who they are through, dyslexia. What does it mean? And can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think I have started to discover myself, like you said, within this last couple of years or so. And I think age has a little bit to do with it. I think as you grow older, you start to think, I've hit this age, and
we won't say what the age is.
We've hit an age
on camera.
And it's, you start to think about, this is who I am. I am this, I am that. I am dyslexic. So I need to speak about it. And it was very difficult to speak about it when I first started, to admit out loud. It was out loud to admit it, because I never did that. It was always, I knew about it. I would speak to very close people about it. Actually, I don't think I even did. Maybe just my husband. But until I actually verbally said it out loud, then it got easier. And then I thought, there's nothing to be ashamed about. I learned about what dyslexia is, maybe because I am a singing teacher and I see so many students, and now it's not a thing. It's not, I teach autistic students, I teach dyslexic students with ADHD. You hear it more and more now. And I can freely talk to my students about, well, I have dyslexia too. And if anything, it gives them a bit of a perk, because now we're talking to each other about experiences, and I'm changing my lessons to help them, again, from a place of maybe experience.
So your challenges with dyslexia, can you describe some of them?
I think to begin with, it's important to say that when I eventually got diagnosed, I was moderately dyslexic. A lot of it was short-term memory, which I laughed about. And when, obviously, I forgot to actually mention, so not only do I do my own stuff, Connecticut, mum, teaching the school, I actually work in 3 other function bands as well.
Wow. Okay. So you have a very, very full, full plate.
And I keep forgetting. That's another thing, forgetting things. So short-term memory. So I do a lot of things, and it can get very overwhelming at times. I have to manage things so much. A friend of mine laughed at me because I have my phone calendar, but I also rewrite what's on my phone calendar on a proper calendar. And he said, but the calendars are the same. I said, yes, but they're there. With that said, so with a function band, you have to learn a lot of lyrics. But although we do have them on pads as well, which is a godsend. But I found it very difficult to learn lyrics. And with Connecticut, I knew that I'll be learning past material that wasn't mine. And I had to learn that. And before that point, I had it in my mind, I could never learn stuff. I even had people that were close to me in other bands that I used to be in, used to make jokes. And, actually looking back, it wasn't that kind. Oh, she never remembers anything. Oh, she doesn't learn it. Or it was always negative. And I was trying.
Now you understand where that comes from.
But it wasn't until I then said, this is what I really want to do, Connecticut. I'm going to do it. I'll learn this stuff. I gave myself time, lots of time to learn it. And I have to. If I'm preparing for a gig or a show, I need that set list. If I'm doing other material that's not my own, I need to make sure I'm learning it and give myself proper time and study time.
The music in Connecticut, some of the songs are 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And could you explain the style of music?
So with Connecticut, the style is prog rock. So we're under the umbrella of prog. But Connecticut, we're very much a song based. So it's and melody, very melodic and symphonic, and also very emotional. Some people might call it neo prog, which is kind of more emotional prog.
Wow.
So yes, as you say, the songs can be, they're not your average 3-minute songs. They can be 10 minutes, or the song off of our current album is 25 minutes long.
So, I mean, at this point, I think your advice for anybody listening to this who has dyslexia, who is a singer, do you have any advice for them about what can help them to learn lyrics, or even in the music industry in general?
I just think with anyone in any career, if you are neurodiverse, I mean, I think if you're being diagnosed now, I think maybe there might be more help. I don't know. I think I've had to learn a lot myself on how I do things. I've carved out my own path. Someone very close to me has recently been diagnosed, and I'm so glad, because they've been diagnosed at a very early age, and I'm able to give them that support and that early intervention, so that they don't feel not confident. And I think that's the danger. I think if you are growing up and you're hitting your 20s and you find out then, that's 20 years of struggling and feeling not confident and digging yourself a deeper hole because you think something's wrong with you. It's not that. It's just you won't reach the answer in a straight line, is what some people do. You might go a slightly different route to hit that answer, the correct answer that it might be. So I think it's just, I can only base it on me. I think for me, I just need to give myself time, and I have to order things in an appropriate order. And yeah, I think it's all about time, and that's easier said than done, especially when you've got kids. It's hard.
How do you empower and inspire other women to step into their confidence?
I think it's owning who you are, and it's about discovering who you are, and that can take a long time.
I absolutely agree with that.
It can take a long time,
many years to discover who you are, and actually undoing everything that you were taught.
Yeah, it takes a long time, because I think you need to grow and learn, and you are changing as a person as well through your different from teens to your early 20s to your 30s. You're constantly changing, but you're learning things about yourself. And I think it does get to a point where you either let go of things. I think you have to let go. It's like, for me, this whole dyslexia thing, it's like, let go. That was the past. It's let go of what you once thought it was or perceived it to be. I perceived dyslexia as a very negative thing, because back then I was taught it in a way that it was negative. It was a negative thing to have a dyslexia, or whatever it was that I was doing. It was, I felt the negative vibes coming my way with it. But now it's let going of that, understanding about it, researching about what it actually is, and then just letting go. This is who I am. This is a part of me. I need to own it now.
Yeah.
And I've learned actually that it's a bit of my special superpower, because I might think of things in a very different way. I see things that maybe people don't, I think maybe out of the box a bit. I don't see things in a very straight line as what other people think of.
That's a really good way to think of it. It's your superpower.
I know sometimes we can all label it as, oh, if you're a bit neurodiverse, it's your superpower. But actually, I don't see things straightforward. I'm constantly thinking. I'm constantly listening to music. My mind is constantly very, very busy. Yes, it comes with its drawbacks. I think I've just learned that is part of me, and embrace that part. And I've allowed a lot. By embracing it, I've actually allowed a lot to just kind of wash away. And I've grown in confidence with that, because I've also then learned to, I used to have a thing with my voice, and I used to hate a certain part of my voice. And again, I'd really hate it. And now that's who I am. That's how it is. That's how it sounds. Own it, play with it. And I'm having fun with playing with my voice a lot. Not just, I don't like when I hear a singer sing emotionless. They sing as if they're just reading off a page, or they're singing it as if it's scored out, like each note. And it sounds really, I'm sure it works in certain styles, but I think it just, for me, it doesn't work for me. That's not who I am.
Last question, and thank you so much for your time coming on and talking about your personal journey. Last question for you. How can women support and uplift one another to build collective confidence?
Well, I think we just need to stop putting each other down. I think you can see through history, through society, that women are very quick to put each other down. I don't know why.
Great when you're down, and they're there to support you when you're down. But when you're up, it's interesting how that support suddenly teeters out.
I think maybe it comes down to, if you're a woman and you're a successful woman, you're seen as something, oh, well, she's
up herself.
Yeah. She's bossy. If you see maybe a man in the same position, they've got authority.
Successful. Yeah.
He's a good leader. It's that constant battle if we're going down that route. But I think if women need to pick women up,
and not just when they're at their lowest,
not when they're at their lowest,
when they are successful,
because I think it's
because that's when we need it the most, ironically, is when we're being successful.
Yeah. So I think women need to support women and congratulate success, even if you're in the same field, especially if you're in the same field. So I think sometimes even with music, there's a lot of competition and competitiveness. And what I've learned, again, maybe because I'm a little bit older, and the women that I've come in contact with, maybe within a similar age, and they're fantastic because I guess they've been through it as well. And we're all congratulating each other. We're all kind of cheering each other on. There is no competition. They're doing what they're doing. I'm doing what I'm doing. And I really hope that where they go in their life is they are finding their own success, whatever success means to you. And I think that's really important. Is I had someone a woman who thought that if you're famous, that was successful. And she kind of turned to me and said something like casual, like, oh, well, you haven't done it yet, kind of thing.
Wow.
And I maybe was a bit naive at that time, a bit young. I didn't have a comeback or anything. I'm not like that. I don't really have comebacks. I just let things wash over my head. But now it's well, your success, your idea of success is very different to my idea of success. And as long as you believe in your own success, any words like that can wash over you. You know, you don't have to let that doesn't get to me anymore. I think off camera you were going to talk about how do I cope with criticism?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the comments, and I've actually seen you watch your own performance on YouTube, and you're sort of criticizing it.
Yeah.
But actually, you don't really pay too much attention to the comments anymore. I think before you did.
You can't escape them. You can't. There's always going to be a comment. There's always going to be that one plonker that didn't even turn up to your gig but has to comment on a video. It's just like, well, if you're going to comment on a video, make sure you're there to actually comment about the sound quality or something like that. I think that's a little bit of a bugbear for me. But you see it for what it is. Comments that are made face to face, a bit like what that girl said. I think back then, it can sting a little bit. You're like, where's this coming from? Where did that come from?
Yeah, that wasn't necessary.
Why?
Yeah.
At the time, your head's going crazy. But now, again, because of the ground, and I think it's really important because of your own, you know yourself now. You know who you are.
With the confidence.
I've still got lots to learn. I'm not all there. I'm not finished. So I've still got a lot to learn about myself, but I'm so much more in the know than what I was. So when it comes to things like that, I'm able to go, that's you. That's your insecurity or your projection. I know who I am. I know I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I know what I'm capable of. I know that this is what success means to me, and I will continue doing me.
That's brilliant. That's the best advice. And I guess that comes from, that's what this podcast is about. It's your journey and of confidence, how you were able to grow that confidence in your field and own it.
Yeah.
And in doing so, be able to shut down all that, the negativity, the trolling, the comments. And actually,
I have to say, I haven't had many though. There hasn't been that many. It's just, when you're doing something so public, like singing, like what you're going to be doing with your podcast, you may just get the odd one. There's going to be something in it.
Say something.
You can't. That's the nature of social media, isn't it? Of these days, and I think that hasn't helped.
Yeah.
And I think where we have grown with social media, I think now the children now it's kind of being thrusted in their face. We've kind of grown up with it. We've seen it. We've seen how horrible it can be, how bad it can be, how addictive it can be. But I had this conversation with some friends of mine. But as an adult, we are at that stage where we can say, wait a minute, I've had too much of this, I can put it away. Not everyone.
Put it down.
Not everyone. So, that has had an impact.
Yeah, it's the ability to turn things on and off. Yeah.
So you don't have to look at the comments if you don't want to. However, when it's done through your friends and people who you thought were your friends.
Yes.
And I think it's knowing it's knowing about who your friends are as well.
Thank you, Sertari, for your time today. And thank you for, sharing your personal story on this very first episode of Athena Women Today. So we'll end it there, and please subscribe and look forward to the next episode.